why don't you just disappear? My stepdaughter's voice sliced through the tension in the room like a blade. I looked at her, standing there with her arms crossed, her face twisted in frustration. She had never spoken to me like that before. But the part that cut the deepest wasn't her words. It was the silence that followed, my wife's silence. I turned to Lisa, waiting, hoping for some sort of reaction, some denial, some defense. Instead, she let out a long breath and said, "We would be better off without you." She didn't yell it. She didn't cry. She just said it, like it was a fact, like it was something she had already decided a long time ago. And at that moment, something inside me shattered. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just nodded, turned, and walked upstairs to pack my things. The weight of betrayal sat on my chest like a cinderblock, but I kept moving, my hands working on autopilot. Lisa didn't stop me. Neither did my stepdaughter, Jenna. The home I had built, the family I had nurtured, had just turned its back on me, and no one seemed to care. But they would. Because by the next morning, my phone exploded with 87 missed calls. That was when they realized what revenge I had prepared. I drove through the night, the streetlights casting long shadows on the empty road. The weight in my chest remained, but something colder settled in alongside it, clarity. Lisa and Jenna had made their choice. Now, it was my turn. I checked into a cheap motel outside of town, a place where no one would think to look for me. The room smelled like stale cigarettes and bad decisions, but I didn't care. I sat on the edge of the bed, my duffel bag at my feet, and stared at my phone. 87 missed calls. Most were from Lisa. A few from Jenna. Even some from her mother, Susan, who had never liked me much. I let the phone vibrate in my hand as Lisa's name flashed across the screen again. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my email, scrolling until I found exactly what I needed, the digital copies of the documents I had gathered over the past 2 months. See, Lisa thought she was in control. She thought she could say those words, push me out, and keep living the life I had provided for her. She had no idea I had already seen the cracks in our marriage long before tonight. She didn't know I had access to her bank statements. She didn't know I had seen the receipts for the hotel stays, the unexplained charges at expensive restaurants, the flight bookings under a name that wasn't mine. She didn't know I had followed her once. And she sure as hell didn't know what I had done next. I took a deep breath, exhaling slowly as I drafted a message. It was short, just a few lines. But when she read it, she'd understand exactly what was coming. Then, I hit send. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. I smiled. Lisa was finally realizing the truth, she had made a terrible mistake. The phone kept ringing, vibrating angrily on the nightstand like it had something important to say. I let it ring out. I wasn't ready to hear Lisa's voice, not yet. Instead, I leaned back against the headboard and took a slow breath, staring at the ceiling. I thought about how we got here. How a marriage that had lasted nearly a decade could unravel in just a few words. Lisa and I had met in the most ordinary way, at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was vibrant, full of life, the kind of woman who could light up a room with nothing more than a smirk. I was just a guy who had worked hard to build something for himself, and when she walked into my life, I thought I had finally found someone to share it with. We built a life together. A house. A future. I even stepped up when Jenna, her daughter from a previous relationship, came into the picture. I wasn't her biological father, but I was there. School plays, birthdays, college funds, I did my part. I thought I was doing it for a family that appreciated me. But I was wrong. It started small. The late nights at work. The sudden, girls' trips she never used to take. The way she'd turn her phone over whenever I walked into the room. I didn't want to believe it at first, but then I saw the signs. One night, about 2 months ago, she left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Lisa was careful, always deleting messages, always covering her tracks. But she slipped up. I didn't mean to look. At least, that's what I told myself. The email subject line caught my eye: "I can't wait to see you again." I clicked on it before I could talk myself out of it. Last night was amazing. I hate sneaking around, but you're worth it. He has no idea, and I don't think he ever will. Can't wait for next weekend. Same hotel. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't a one-time thing. She was in deep. And she had no intention of stopping. I remember standing there in the dim kitchen light, staring at the screen while my world fell apart in slow motion. I could have confronted her right then. I could have yelled, screamed, demanded answers. But something in me stopped. Instead, I took a deep breath. Closed the laptop. And decided to play the long game. That's when I started digging. I checked our bank statements, tracing every suspicious charge. I hired a private investigator, a guy named Ray, a retired cop who specialized in cases like this. I wanted proof. Real proof. And oh, did Ray deliver. He sent me photos. Lisa with him. Some guy I didn't recognize, mid-40s, well-dressed, the kind of man who probably thought he was untouchable. They weren't just meeting for dinner. They were together. Hotels, weekends, even a trip to a cabin upstate. The best part? Lisa had used our money for it. So while she was busy making me feel like an outsider in my own home, I was building my case. Piece by piece. Now, the puzzle was complete. And tonight, when Lisa and Jenna told me to leave, they thought they were ending things on their terms. They had no idea I had already set the match to burn it all down. Another call buzzed on my phone. I finally picked up. Lisa's voice was frantic. "Where are you?" I smiled to myself. Let the games begin. I took a long breath before answering. "Where do you think I am, Lisa?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to know she was scrambling. "Come home," she said quickly. "Please, let's talk." I almost laughed. Home. The same house where she had just stood beside her daughter, telling me they'd be better off without me. Talk about what? I said, keeping my voice calm. You made it clear how you feel. Look, I didn't mean it like that, Lisa stammered. Jenna was upset. I was upset. We said things we didn't mean. Just come home so we can fix this. Fix this? There was nothing left to fix. Did you mean it when you said you'd be better off without me? I asked. Silence. Lisa, I pressed. She exhaled, and I could picture her running a hand through her perfect blonde hair, frustration brewing beneath the surface. I was just mad, okay? You're always so distant lately. Always watching me like you don't trust me. I closed my eyes. And should I? Another silence. Then she snapped. Are you seriously accusing me of something right now? There it was. The shift. The moment where she realized she wasn't in control anymore. I didn't answer her question. Instead, I let the silence stretch, waiting. And then she caved. What did you do? She asked quietly. I glanced at my laptop. The email I had sent earlier was simple, just a collection of photos. Screenshots of hotel reservations, bank transfers, even a few messages between her and her boyfriend. No words. No explanations. Just undeniable proof. Sent not only to Lisa, but to Jenna, her mother, and several of our closest friends. I imagined Lisa checking her phone right now, scrolling in horror as her perfect world collapsed. Why don't you check your email? I finally said. I heard a rustling noise on the other end, like she was moving quickly. Then a sharp inhale. Then. "Oh my God," she breathed. My grip tightened around the phone. "Who is he, Lisa?" She didn't answer. "How long?" My voice cracked through the quiet motel room, raw and sharp. She still didn't say a word. But I heard something else, a faint choking sound. Was she crying? Good. I let her sit with the weight of it before I spoke again. "You thought I'd just walk away, didn't you?" More silence. "You thought you'd get to push me out of my own house, my own marriage, and then live happily ever after with, what's his name? Jason? Mark?" She sniffled, but still didn't speak. "That's fine," I said. "I already know." Lisa gasped. "Yeah," I continued. "I know all about your little weekend getaways. The fancy restaurants. The cabin trip. And the best part? You used our money to do it." "Wait," she started, but I cut her off. "I froze the accounts, Lisa." A sharp intake of breath. "You spent our money on your affair, so now you have nothing," I said evenly. "No access to our savings. No access to our credit cards. I even pulled my name from the mortgage." The sound of Lisa scrambling in the background was almost satisfying. She was checking. She was realizing. "You can't do this," she whispered, but there was no confidence left in her voice. "I already did." "Where are you?" she begged. I exhaled slowly, glancing at the clock on the motel wall. "You'll find out soon enough." And then I hung up. Lisa had just realized she wasn't just losing me. She was losing everything. The moment I hung up, the phone started ringing again. I let it. Lisa was panicking now, the reality of what I had done sinking in. I imagined her standing in our bedroom, phone in one hand, credit card in the other, frantically trying to process that everything she thought she had secured was crumbling right in front of her. She wanted control. She wanted to push me out of my own home. Now, she was standing in the ruins of the life I had built. I picked up on the fourth call. "Where are you?" she demanded, her voice raw and desperate. I smiled. "Why? So you can fix this? Smooth things over?" She hesitated. I need to talk to you. In person." "No, Lisa," I said, leaning back against the motel pillows. "You needed to talk to me months ago. Instead, you chose to lie. Over and over. And now, you don't get to control how this ends." "I can explain," she tried. I laughed, shaking my head. "Go ahead. Explain how you spent our money to take your boyfriend to expensive hotels. Explain why you pretended to be a loving wife while sneaking around behind my back." Silence. "Or better yet," I continued, "explain it to Jenna. Because she got the email, too." Lisa let out a strangled gasp. You sent it to Jenna?" "Yes." The panic in her voice was real now. She doesn't need to know this, she's just a kid." "She's 18, Lisa," I snapped. "Old enough to tell me to disappear. Old enough to act like she understood exactly what was going on." I let the words hang in the air before delivering the final blow. "And old enough to see her mother for who she really is." Lisa made a choking sound on the other end of the line. I wondered if she was crying, breaking down in the bedroom where she had probably spent hours with him. Good. Let her feel what I felt. "Please, just come home," she begged. "We'll talk, we'll fix this." I almost felt bad for her. Almost. "Home," I said, shaking my head. "Lisa, I don't have a home anymore. You made sure of that when you stood there and let Jenna tell me to leave. When you told me you'd be better off without me." She was sobbing now. But I felt nothing. "You didn't want me there, remember?" I said coldly. "Well, congratulations. You got your wish. Then, I hung up. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of messages. Lisa had left voicemails. Jenna had sent texts. Even her mother had called me, probably to tell me what a terrible person I was for airing Lisa's dirty laundry to the whole family. But one message caught my eye. It was from an unknown number. We need to talk. It's about Lisa. Call me. No name. Nothing. I stared at it, something sharp twisting in my gut. Because deep down, I already knew. It was him. The man she had betrayed me with. And now, he was the one reaching out to me. I stared at the message, my pulse steady but my mind racing. Lisa's lover, her boyfriend, affair partner, whatever he was, wanted to talk. I wasn't sure whether to be angry, amused, or curious. What could he possibly have to say to me? Was he hoping to smooth things over? Apologize? Try to justify what they did? I wasn't the kind of man who ignored things. I needed to know. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called him. The phone rang twice before he picked up. Hello. His voice was cautious. I didn't say anything at first. I wanted to hear him squirm, to let the silence stretch between us. Then, finally, I spoke. You wanted to talk. So talk. A pause. Then he exhaled. Look, I know you're angry. I chuckled, shaking my head. You don't know a damn thing about what I am. Fair enough, he admitted. But I need you to hear me out. I leaned forward. You're sleeping with my wife. What could you possibly have to say that I need to hear? Another pause. I didn't know, he finally said. I frowned. Didn't know what? That she was married. I blinked, caught off guard. Bullshit. I swear to you, man, he said quickly. She told me she was divorced. Said you two had been done for a long time, that you still lived together for financial reasons but that it was over. I ran a hand through my hair. Was he lying? Or was Lisa really that good at deceiving everyone? How long? I asked, my voice dangerously low. 6 months. 6 months. I let that number sink in. 6 months of my wife pretending to be faithful. 6 months of looking me in the eye while secretly living a double life. I clenched my jaw. And you expect me to believe you had no idea? I asked. I swear, he said. The first time I suspected something was off was last week when she seemed weird. Kept checking her phone, acting nervous. Then yesterday, she lost it. Freaked out when she got an email, your email. Good. So why are you calling me? I asked, gripping the phone. If this is some pathetic attempt to apologize, save it. I'm not calling to apologize, he said. I'm calling to warn you. I frowned. Warn me. He hesitated. Lisa's unraveling, man. She's not handling this well. She said some things last night that made me worried. I didn't say anything, waiting. She was drinking. A lot. And she kept saying things like, he's going to ruin me and he's going to make me pay for this. I let out a slow breath. She said she needed to fix this before you did something drastic, he continued. She even mentioned legal action. My stomach twisted. Of course. Lisa wasn't just panicking because I exposed her. She was scared because I had proof. Proof that she had used marital funds for her affair. Proof that could be used against her in a divorce. She wasn't crying over losing me. She was crying over losing everything else. I just thought you should know, he added. I don't know what she's planning, but I wouldn't underestimate her. I rubbed my temple, already thinking ahead. Why tell me all this? A humorless laugh came through the line. Because I feel like an idiot. And because I don't think you're the bad guy in this story. I exhaled slowly. This man had slept with my wife. Had unknowingly played a role in the destruction of my marriage. But strangely enough, I almost believed him. Almost. Thanks for the warning, I said, my voice unreadable. Then I hung up. And just like that, the game had changed again. Lisa wasn't just scared. She was desperate. And desperate people did stupid things. I sat in the dim motel room, gripping my phone as the weight of everything settled onto my shoulders. Lisa wasn't just panicking, she was plotting. The question was, what was she planning? I stood up, pacing the worn carpet. If she was considering legal action, she had only a few angles she could play. Divorce was inevitable at this point, but she wasn't just afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the money, the house, the comfortable life I had built for her. Would she try to manipulate Jenna against me even further? Would she twist the narrative, play the victim, claim I was abusive, controlling, unstable? No. Lisa was many things, a liar, a cheater, a selfish woman, but she wasn't reckless. If she was planning something, it had to be strategic. And then it hit me. She wouldn't just try to save face. She'd try to destroy me first. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an unknown number. I stared at the screen for a second before answering. Hello. A woman's voice came through, sharp, professional. Mr. Reynolds. Speaking. This is Detective Monroe with the local police department. We received a report regarding a domestic dispute at your residence last night. Would you be available to come in for a statement? I felt the blood drain from my face. Lisa. That snake. I forced my voice to stay calm. A domestic dispute? Yes, sir, the detective said. We received a complaint from your wife, Lisa Reynolds, stating that there was a heated altercation and that she felt unsafe after you left the home. My grip tightened around the phone. She was setting me up. She knew I had the evidence to ruin her, so now she was flipping the script. Painting me as the aggressor. Sir. Monroe prompted. I took a slow breath. Of course, detective. When would you like me to come in? Today would be ideal. We just have a few questions. Understood, I said. I'll be there in an hour. I ended the call and let out a bitter laugh. Lisa had just played her next move. But what she didn't know. I was 10 steps ahead of her. I walked into the station with my head high. I wasn't going to slouch, wasn't going to look nervous. That's exactly what Lisa wanted, for me to come in looking defensive, guilty, like a man with something to hide. Detective Monroe was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She gestured for me to sit across from her desk. Mr. Reynolds, thanks for coming in, she said. I nodded. Happy to clear up whatever lies Lisa has told you. Monroe raised an eyebrow. Lies? I leaned forward. I have documented proof that my wife has been cheating on me for 6 months. I confronted her, and she didn't take it well. Last night, she told me to leave our home, so I did. That's it. No altercation. No threats. Nothing. Monroe studied me carefully. And you're saying she fabricated her report? I smiled, reaching into my bag. Detective, I came prepared. I slid a folder across the desk. Monroe opened it and immediately stiffened. Inside was everything. The emails proving Lisa's affair. The financial records showing she used our joint account to fund it. The private investigators' photos of her sneaking into hotels with another man. A recording, from a camera I had installed in our living room, of our conversation last night. Where Lisa and Jenna both told me to leave. Where I never raised my voice, never threatened her, never did anything remotely aggressive. Monroe flipped through the evidence, her lips pressing into a thin line. Finally, she set the folder down and exhaled. "Mr. Reynolds, based on what I'm seeing here, it does appear that your wife's report lacks credibility." I nodded. "So what happens next?" Monroe leaned back. "I'll still have to document the complaint, but given this evidence, I don't see any reason to pursue charges against you." She looked at me closely. "She wanted you in a holding cell, didn't she?" I smirked. "Oh, absolutely." She shook her head. "You'd be surprised how often we see this, people trying to get ahead in a divorce by making false accusations. It's disgusting." I kept my expression neutral, but inside, I felt something cold settle in my chest. Lisa had just crossed a line she couldn't come back from. I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to bury her. Back at the motel, I sat at my laptop, crafting the final piece of my revenge. Lisa had underestimated me. She thought she could control the narrative, paint herself as the innocent wife abandoned by her cruel, unstable husband. But the truth was out there now. And I was about to make sure she could never escape it. I attached the files, the evidence, the bank statements, the photos, the recording, to an email. Then, I addressed it to our friends and family, her workplace, our divorce attorney, and, for good measure, her mother. I typed a simple message. "Since Lisa has decided to lie about me, I think it's only fair that everyone knows the real story. Attached are all the details. Feel free to draw your own conclusions." I hovered over the send button for a moment. Then, I clicked it. I sat back, watching as the email sent. Then, I picked up my phone and dialed Lisa's number one last time. She answered immediately, her voice raw with stress. "Where the hell have you been?" I smiled. "Check your email, Lisa. And enjoy your new life. Without me." Then, I hung up. And just like that, Lisa's world came crashing down. The moment I hung up, I sat back and exhaled. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. For the first time in months, I felt calm. Lisa's life was about to go up in flames. And all I had to do now, was watch. It didn't take long. My phone lit up with notifications. Not from Lisa, she had gone silent. But from others. "Jenna, what the hell did you do? Mom is freaking out. Lisa's mom, you are a vindictive, spiteful man. She made a mistake, and you are trying to ruin her life over it. Pathetic. My best friend, Dave, dude. Holy shit. One of Lisa's coworkers, hey, wow. We had no idea. I can tell you this, she won't have a job after this." I smiled at that last one. Lisa had been climbing the corporate ladder at her firm for years, painting herself as the perfect professional woman. An affair? That was one thing. But stealing company time and money to fund her secret life? That was career-ending. I decided to check in on Lisa's social media. She had deleted her Facebook and Instagram. Not just deactivated, gone. I chuckled to myself. She was in full panic mode now. Good. Finally, my phone rang. "Lisa." I let it ring twice before answering, keeping my voice calm. "Hello." At first, all I heard was heavy breathing. Then, "You son of a bitch," she screamed. There it was. The meltdown I had been waiting for. "I assume you saw the email?" I said casually. "You ruined me. Do you have any idea what you've done? My boss, my friends, my mother. I can't even show my face anywhere. Should have thought of that before you cheated, Lisa." "I made a mistake," she yelled, her voice cracking. "You didn't have to destroy my entire life over it." I leaned back, letting her words hang in the air before I responded. Lisa, I didn't destroy your life. You did. I just made sure everyone else saw what you've been hiding. Silence. Then, in a small, broken voice, she asked, "Is this what you wanted?" That question caught me off guard. I had wanted revenge. I had wanted justice. I had wanted her to feel the weight of what she did. But now that she was crumbling, begging, what did I feel? Pity? No. Regret? Not a chance. Closure? Maybe. I sighed. What I wanted, Lisa, was a faithful wife. A partner. A family. But you made sure I didn't get that. She sniffled. I cut her off. And now? I don't want anything from you. We're done. More silence. Then, finally, she whispered, "What do I do now?" For the first time since this started, she was the lost one. She was the one with nothing. I could have rubbed it in. I could have laughed. But I didn't. Instead, I simply said, "You figure it out." Just like I had to. Then I ended the call. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Hanging up on Lisa felt like closing the last chapter of a book I never wanted to read again. There was no satisfaction, no gloating, just the quiet realization that I was finally done. She had spent months deceiving me, making a fool out of me, using my money to live a double life. Now, she had nothing left but the wreckage she created. And I had everything ahead of me. Lisa hadn't tried calling again. Neither had Jenna. But I heard plenty through the grapevine. My best friend, Dave, filled me in on some of the details over the phone. "Man, I just saw Lisa's name trending in our town's Facebook group," he said, barely holding back a laugh. "People are ripping her apart. Apparently, her boss found out she was using work trips for her little rendezvous, and guess what? She got fired," I said, already knowing the answer. "Yup. Fired on the spot." I wasn't surprised. Lisa had always prided herself on being a respected professional. Losing her job wasn't just a financial hit, it was a public humiliation. "What about Jenna?" I asked, not sure why I even cared. Dave hesitated. "Honestly, dude. I think she's blaming you for all of this. She posted some cryptic message about people trying to destroy families out of revenge." I exhaled sharply. Of course. Jenna had always seen me as the problem. I was the stepdad, the outsider, the man who didn't belong. She was young, naive. She didn't want to believe her mother was capable of this kind of betrayal. So she made me the villain. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I had spent too many years bending over backward for a family that never truly saw me as one of their own. It was time to let go. I had met with my lawyer a few days earlier, laying out everything, the financial records, the proof of infidelity, the bank fraud. With that much evidence, Lisa wouldn't get a damn thing. She wasn't entitled to alimony. She wasn't keeping the house. And she sure as hell wasn't walking away with half of what I worked for. When she finally received the divorce papers, she texted me. "Lisa, you can't do this to me." I already did. She didn't respond after that. It's funny. When you spend years devoted to someone, you assume your life will always be theirs. That every future memory, every holiday, every little piece of your existence is tied to them. And then one day, they're just gone. I moved out of the motel and into a small apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with outdated carpet and a kitchen that needed work, but it was mine. No ghosts of the past. No reminders of betrayal. Just a fresh start. I started hitting the gym again, getting back to old hobbies, going out for drinks with friends. And the best part? I wasn't looking over my shoulder anymore. No more wondering what Lisa was doing. No more checking her phone for clues. No more pretending everything was fine when, deep down, I knew it wasn't. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I was grabbing coffee at my usual spot when I saw her. Lisa. She looked different. Tired. Hollow. Like someone who had been chewed up and spit out by life. She saw me, and for a moment, I thought she was going to pretend she didn't. But then she walked up. "Hey," she said, voice small. I sipped my coffee, waiting. I just wanted to say. "I'm sorry," she muttered, looking down. "For everything." I stared at her. She looked sorry. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about me. She was sorry for what she had lost. The money. The house. The life she had taken for granted. I could have said a million things in that moment. I could have told her how deeply she had hurt me. How she had made me feel like an outsider in my own home. How I had wasted years of my life on someone who never truly valued me. But instead, I just smiled. "It doesn't matter anymore, Lisa." Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say something. But she didn't. She just nodded, turned, and walked away. And as I watched her go, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't broken. I was free. Lisa walked out of that coffee shop and out of my life for good. I didn't watch her go with sadness or regret. I watched her go with peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by betrayal, resentment, or the nagging feeling that something was wrong in my marriage. I was just, me again. 6 months later. Life had a funny way of moving on, whether you were ready for it or not. My divorce was finalized with Lisa getting nothing but her personal belongings and the clothes on her back. She had to move in with her mother after losing her job, and last I heard, she was bouncing between temp work, trying to piece her life back together. Jenna and I hadn't spoken since. I won't lie, at first, it hurt. I had been in her life since she was a kid, and part of me thought she would at least try to see things from my side. But she made her choice. And now, I was making mine. The man in the mirror. One morning, I stood in my small apartment bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I looked different. Leaner. Stronger. More alive. The stress lines that once creased my face were gone. The dullness in my eyes had been replaced with something I hadn't seen in a long time, purpose. For years, I had made my life about someone else. Lisa's needs. Lisa's happiness. Lisa's future. Now. I was building my future. And it felt damn good. Moving forward. One night, I went out with some friends to a new bar downtown. It wasn't anything fancy, just a laid-back place with dim lighting and good music. That's when I saw her. Not Lisa. Someone new. She was sitting at the bar alone, stirring a drink absent-mindedly, looking like she had just had one of those days. Normally, I wouldn't have approached. I wasn't looking for anything serious. Hell, I wasn't looking for anything at all. But something about her made me pause. So I took a chance. I walked over, sat a few seats away, and casually said, "Long day." She looked up, surprised, then smiled. "You have no idea." That's how it started. Just a conversation. A simple, genuine connection. No lies. No betrayals. No past ghosts haunting the moment. Just two people, talking. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I thought I had lost forever. Hope. Final thoughts. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be grateful for my wife's betrayal, I would have laughed in your face. But now? Now I see it for what it was, a gift. Because without it, I would have never found myself again. Without it, I would still be stuck in a loveless marriage, blind to the fact that I deserved better. Lisa's betrayal freed me. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all. Not destroying her life. Not exposing her lies. Just moving on. And finally, living. The end.